Welcome to Key Concept 9, Six Sigma Quality, Applying Tools for Perfecting the Process. Six Sigma utilizes statistical concepts and methodologies initially adopted by Motorola to guide organizations through the steps of continuous improvement to reduce variation, eliminate defects, and perfect processes. Six Sigma is typically a top-down methodology. That means that the decision to pursue various initiatives comes from the top of the organization or the leadership of a business unit. For success, it requires a commitment of people, time, and other resources. Let's look at the resources, training, and approach to Six Sigma. The challenges and opportunities are enormous. The resources and training are unprecedented. Some of the leading organizations in the world have organized their Six Sigma initiatives and talent resources into 5 categories. First, champions. Champions are senior management, leaders who are responsible for the success of Six Sigma efforts. Champions approve projects, fund them, and alleviate roadblocks to project success. Some business leaders are champions. Most champions are direct reports to the business leader. A typical business may have 7 to 10 champions. The champion should reflect the mix of transaction and production process improvement targets needed in the business. Champions need to be full-time, but need to devote whatever time is needed to make certain their quality projects are successful. Next, Master Black Belts. First and foremost, Master Black Belts must be teachers. They also review and mentor Black Belts. These are full-time jobs. Selection criteria for Master Black Belts are quantitative skills and the ability to teach and mentor. Then, Black Belts. Black Belts are leaders of teams responsible for measuring, analyzing, improving, and controlling key processes that influence customer satisfaction and/or productivity growth. Black Belts also hold full-time positions. Next, Green Belts. Green Belts are trained by a similar method as Black Belts, but usually stay in their operating assignments, working Six Sigma projects part-time, typically as team leaders. And finally, Yellow Belts. Yellow Belts are typically team members or others associated in some way with Six Sigma projects. As such, they support the goals of the project, usually in the context of their existing responsibilities. They therefore need to understand the overall concepts and terminology of Six Sigma. Following participation or involvement with a particular project, they are expected to continue to use Six Sigma tools as part of their normal job. Champions and Master Black Belts are trained on the Six Sigma approach. Champions are able to ask the right questions. Master Black Belts are to teach and mentor. This is true for manufacturing as well as service-related leaders. Once a project is identified and the critical to quality characteristics are defined, and define is the first step of the process, the other steps in the Six Sigma methodology or process begin. Master Black Belts initially mentor Black Belts through the other subsequent phases of the Six Sigma approach: measure, analyze, improve, and control. Here we see the 5 steps for the DMAIC process: define, measure, analyze, improve, and control, synonymous with the process for achieving Six Sigma quality. The improvement cycle illustration also depicts the common knowledge domains of individuals who typically earn the distinction of being Six Sigma and/or Lean Sigma Black Belts or project leaders, Green Belts, project team members, and Yellow Belts, project contributors. Let's look at the steps in more detail. Define. This is the first step or stage of the methodology and sets the context within which Six Sigma project is to be performed. Measure. Identify the key internal processes that influence the CTQs and measure the defects generated relative to the identified CTQs. Defects are defined as out-of-tolerance CTQs. The end of this phase occurs when the Black Belt can successfully measure the defects generated for a key process affecting the CTQ. Analyze. The objective of this phase is to begin to understand why defects are generated. Brainstorming, statistical tools, and others are used to identify key variables that cause the defects. The output of this phase is the explanation of the variables that are likely to drive the process variation the most. Improve. The objective of this phase is to confirm the key variables and then quantify the effect of these variables on the CTQs. Identify the maximum acceptable ranges of the key variables, make certain the measurement systems are capable of measuring the variation in the key variables, and to modify the process to stay within the acceptable ranges. And finally, control. The objective of this phase is to ensure that the modified process now enables the key variables to stay within the maximum acceptable ranges using tools such as statistical process control or checklists. As indicated in the previous sections, Lean is a continuous improvement methodology that focuses primarily on reducing waste. Six Sigma is a continuous improvement methodology that focuses primarily on perfection and improving the quality of the individual processes primarily by reducing variation and defects. The following listing contains tools typically employed in the 5 steps of the DMAIC process improvement. You will note that many of the same tools are employed in both methodologies. Let's look in detail at the typical Six Sigma tools. First, define. Tools falling under define can be a flowchart, value stream map, brainstorming, Pareto diagram and analysis, cause and effect diagram and/or matrix, a SIPOC diagram, a QFD diagram, project charter, then measure. Tools that fall under measure could be a data collection plan or sampling, measurement techniques and integrity, description of variables, run charts and/or control charts, and capability studies. Next, we have analyze. These tools could include a gap analysis or current state versus future state, hypotheses testing, confidence intervals, analysis of variance, parametric tests, correlation and regression analysis, and reliability estimates and tolerancing techniques. Then we have improve. Tools that fall under improve could be an implementation plan, design of experiments, pilot testing, and failure mode effect analysis. And finally, control. Tools that fall under control could be a monitoring plan or follow-up actions, statistical process control, dashboard metrics, benefits and costs, and lessons learned. So how does Six Sigma relate to statistical analysis? Remember the bell-shaped curve? The statistical method used by some teachers and instructors to illustrate test scores, percentages, and determine who gets what grade, A, B, C. Statistical control charts are sometimes used to monitor the stability and quality of a process as an aid in maintaining statistical control. A process or any operation is said to be in a state of statistical control if, from the evidence gathered from a sample, it can be deduced or inferred with a high degree of confidence that the process or operation is behaving the way it should. Here we have a simplified process control chart. The USL and LSL stand for upper specification limit and lower specification limit. The UCL and LCL stand for upper control limit and lower control limit. Statistical process control provides one with a tool for determining promptly and inexpensively just when unrealized causes of variation occur, how serious they are, and how they can be prevented from reoccurring. The consistency of a process or capability of a process to meet its purpose is often referred to as process capability. All processes have inherent statistical variability, which can be evaluated by statistical methods. There are a variety of other tools often used for statistical analysis and associated with trying to analyze the gap between the current state and the desired future state of a process. These may include hypotheses testing or confidence intervals. These are used as a method of making data-driven decisions with the intent of determining the level of statistical significance and confidence level. Analysis of variance and parametric tests are used to compare the variances of selected events. Correlation and regression analysis used to determine the strength of data relationships. And finally, reliability estimates and tolerancing techniques. In statistics, reliability typically refers to the consistency of a measure. A measure is said to have a high reliability if it produces consistent results under consistent conditions. It is important to be aware of the statistical tools available and their intended use. However, there are software packages that explain the tools thoroughly and offer examples of their appropriate use. For most practitioners of Six Sigma methodologies, Minitab is the most widely used software package. The primary reason for this is that Minitab collaborated and worked closely with Motorola to meet their needs. Statistical analysis concepts and tools are not new. The same statistical concepts used in Six Sigma continuous improvement methodologies have been used for years. The unique aspect is how they are applied to processes. The following chart illustrates percentages from 1 to 6 standard deviations from the mean. Here are some benefits of Six Sigma methodologies. If you can't express something in the form of numbers, you really don't know much about it. And if you don't know much about it, you can't control it. And finally, if you can't control it, you're at the mercy of chance. So, how good is good enough? The answer to this question is, it depends on how important defect-free or perfection really is, and at what cost. It is most important that the cup of coffee or milk that you pour in the morning be statistically measured to Six Sigma standards, or that slice of bread be toasted to perfection. However, for some processes, Six Sigma quality may be critical. This table illustrates what 99% versus 99.99966% defect-free means. Is flawless execution of each process critical to customer satisfaction? It has been said that in today's business environment, typical work processes are between 3 to 4 sigma. Is that good enough? Where could or should Six Sigma methodologies be applied? Here are some examples of work systems or work processes where Six Sigma is often applied. Making a critical product or product component. Billing and invoicing customers. Lending money. Servicing aircraft engines. And medical prescriptions and records. Let's review. Six Sigma is a statistical measurement, meaning 6 standard deviations between the process mean and the nearest specification limit. And Six Sigma is also a business philosophy, strategy, methodology, and threshold of excellence originally developed by Motorola in the 1970s. Now that you have been introduced to the concepts of applying tools for evaluating the current situation, let's look at the next steps you should take to master this key concept. First, you will have the opportunity to visit 2 websites that highlight Six Sigma tools. Then, you can reinforce your learning by completing an A3 form to complete for the future state section and formulate lessons learned. And finally, you will assess your learning by completing a practice quiz on this key topic.